Hello, I am Charlotte, Fontaine's aspiring ace journalist. What kind of story do you have in store for me to write for the Steambird Publishing? If none, then let me share some of mine.
On this day, the famed Fontaine magicians, Linny and Lynette, were performing at the Opera Epiclese. However, during the show, word flies that suddenly, the Fatui have appeared and unleashed a terroristic attack.
Oh my, as a journalist, I need to find out more about this. With my recording device in hand, I hurry to the Opera Epiclese, eager to get the inside scoop on what is happening. As I arrive, the scene is one of absolute mayhem. Fatui agents are running amok, causing chaos and destruction wherever they go.
Familiar friends like clorinde, navia, and more are there to fight them off, though it is still a struggle.
I can't help but stare in awe at the scene playing out before me. The Fatui are far more powerful than I'd expected, and they are putting up one hell of a fight. I quickly pull out my camera, determined to capture every last moment of this historical event.
Suddenly, her camera is knocked out of her hands as Charlotte is suddenly grabbed from behind, her arms held behind her in a tight grip as she slowly begins getting pulled away.
Ah, here's a prize bargaining chip.
I let out a startled cry as I'm suddenly grabbed from behind. I try to struggle against the Fatui soldier's grip, but to no avail as my hands are pinned behind my back. I try to fight back, but my strength is no match to the Fatui agent. Panic grips its claws into my heart as I hear the Fatui soldier's words, realizing the situation I am in. "Let go of me!"
Charlotte cried out, struggling against the Fatui's grip in vain. She couldn't shake loose no matter how hard she tried, and she was completely helpless as the Fatui started to drag her away. Her mind flashed with panic as she realized she was being used as a bargaining chip. The Fatui wanted to use her presence to negotiate with the people of Fontaine and the resistance.
Her cry was heard by her friends.
The sound of her cry echoed throughout the Opera Epiclese, drawing the attention of the Fontaine resistance fighters and her allies. At the sound of it, several pairs of eyes turned towards her, and a look of horror passed over their faces as they saw her being dragged away by the Fatui. As her friends and allies recognized the desperate situation she was in, a group of them quickly jumped into action. At the head of the resistance fighters, Navia quickly stepped forward, her eyes filled with determination and a hint of anger.
Release her at once or face the wrath of Fontaine's resistance,
Navia demanded, brandishing her claymore and pointing it towards the Fatui.
The kidnapper Fatui stops, but still holds Charlotte. Two more Fatui come on either side of Charlotte and both press rifles against the sides of her head.
As a pair of rifles are pressed against her head, Charlotte freezes in place. Panic and fear flood her mind as she feels the cold metal of the rifles against her temples. The Fatui have her completely at their mercy. If she moves a muscle, she is as good as dead. Meanwhile, Navia's eyes widen in horror as she sees the rifles pressed to Charlotte's head. Her friends and allies are all holding their breaths, unsure of what could happen next.
The Fatui soldiers look out at the crowd.
Who's the judge of the Opera Epiclese?
The Fatui's words ring out like a death sentence. Everyone knows exactly who the judge in the Opera Epiclese is. The legendary Neuvillette.
I'm the Chief Justice. What is your business here, Fatui?
Neuvillette speaks up with a strong voice, his expression firm and calm.
So, you're the one who gave the sentence of sending our harbinger, Tartaglia, to the fortress of Meripede?
Neuvillette nods, his expression remaining firm as he responds to the Fatui's question.
Yes, that is correct. I'm the one who passed the judgment on Tartaglia.
Well, during the prophecy disaster, you gave another harbinger, Arlecchino, the Gnosis as payment for her help. Her branch of Fatui had successful collaboration with you, correct?
Neuvillette pauses for a moment, considering the Fatui's words. He knows very well that he had indeed offered the Gnosis to Arlecchino in exchange for her help during the disaster. Her branch of the Fatui had been crucial in saving Fontaine from destruction.
With the Gnosis, she and the Fatui left Fontaine. However, our branch of Fatui is missing our harbinger, who is currently locked down in the fortress of Meripede.
Neuvillette's expression darkens at the Fatui's words. So that's what this is all about, a bargain to free the Fatui harbinger locked up in Meripede.
So, to put it simply, you will order his release. Today, now, you will set Tartaglia free. Or you can scoop this girl's brains off the pavement. How much do you value her life?
At the Fatui's ultimatum, a look of fear passes over Navia's face as she realizes the stakes of the situation. The life of her friend, her dear friend, is at risk. The ultimatum hangs heavily in the air. The choice between the release of the Fatui harbinger and the safety of Charlotte.
If you refuse, this girl's head will explode between our rifles. Even if you jail or kill us afterwards, she'll still be dead, and our branch of Fatui will continue with attacks in the future. Or, give us our harbinger, and with that final loose end done, we'll have no further business in Fontaine.
The Fatui's ultimatum hangs like a guillotine over all of them. Charlotte feels her heart in her throat as she tries to think of some way out of the situation. But there is none. Either Tartaglia is freed or she dies right now. Neuvillette's expression has changed to one of contemplation. He knows that in order to save Charlotte's life and to prevent further attacks by the Fatui, the safest option would be to release Tartaglia. However, as the head of the justice system in Fontaine, such a decision is not one to be done lightly. The ramifications of such a decision would follow him for the rest of his life. With a heavy heart, Navia looks at Neuvillette's face, practically begging him to find another way. But deep down, she knows there is none. The only way to save Charlotte's life is to listen to the Fatui's demands.
We don't have all day, so you got 30 seconds to choose.
30, 29.
All eyes turn to Neuvillette as the Fatui starts his countdown. The tension in the air is palpable as everyone waits to hear his decision. Neuvillette clenches his jaw as he looks at Charlotte, held at gunpoint by the Fatui soldiers. 30 seconds is far too little time to weigh the options given. Such a decision can drastically change Fontaine's future.
Free one Harbinger, and though we'll continue our actions and operations, they'll be elsewhere, outside of Fontaine. Or keep the crazy man locked up. And not only will this girl's brains spill, but our attacks continue in Fontaine for the foreseeable future.
24, 23.
Time appears to slow down as everyone holds their breath, awaiting Neuvillette's choice on what to do. The ultimatum is clear. Release Tartaglia, and the Fatui will remove their presence in Fontaine. But keep Tartaglia imprisoned as he is. And the Fatui will not only kill Charlotte, but also continue their attacks in Fontaine for an unforeseeable time. With the Fatui holding true on its ultimatum and 20 seconds quickly dwindling, the choice is on Neuvillette to make. Does he give in to the Fatui's demands and release their Harbinger? Or does he stand fast on his justice convictions and leave Tartaglia in his prison cell, with Charlotte's life in the Fatui's hands?
Time is ticking.
17, 16, 15.
The clock on Neuvillette's decision keeps ticking down, but the head of justice in Fontaine is still visibly torn. The choice before him now is one with dire ramifications. His justice convictions versus the life of an innocent girl he's known for years. His reputation as an upholder of justice has been spotless, and to release Tartaglia would destroy all that.
12, 11, 10.
The soldiers pressing the rifles against Charlotte's head cock the guns, definitely loaded and ready to fire.
As the guns are cocked, Charlotte can feel the cold metal pressing against her head. The fear in her heart spikes as she knows that her time is almost up. And if Neuvillette doesn't decide soon, she'll be nothing more than a splatter in the Opera Epiclese. She looks out into the crowd, locking eyes with Navia, who can feel her heart breaking looking into her dear friend's eyes. Neuvillette himself is having an internal struggle in his mind. He feels the weight of the ultimatum before him, and he glances at Charlotte for a moment, his own eyes reflecting sorrow. Charlotte is but a young woman, just doing her job. But she is his friend, his ally in the pursuit of justice.
9, 8, 7.
As the countdown approaches its final digits, Neuvillette turns towards the Fatui holding Charlotte. He has made his decision, his internal battle deciding the only choice he can follow. He has to put his personal feelings for Charlotte aside, and think of the law and justice as a whole for Fontaine. Navia is watching this whole scene, her heart breaking. She knows her dear friend may not survive this if Neuvillette says no, but she also knows that Neuvillette is a just man that upholds the rule of law, and his decision will be in accordance with that, whether she or Charlotte will like it or not.
5, 4, 3.
The countdown is almost over, and the Fatui will pull the trigger once they hit the final digit they're at. Navia's heart sinks as she watches Charlotte with the rifles pressed to her head, knowing that this is most likely going to be the last time she gets to see her dear friend's sweet smile. Neuvillette's mind has been made up now as he looks at the Fatui soldier that's still got a rifle pressed to Charlotte's temple. Release Tartaglia, and he would be doing the Fatui's bidding. Keep Tartaglia arrested, and an innocent woman will die.
2, 1.
Charlotte closes her eyes as the Fatui reaches the last second, tears welling up in the corners of her eyes as she is sure to be the victim of the coming events. Her friends, allies, her loved ones, and family will be the ones to look at her dead body that lays on the Opera Epiclese floor. But perhaps it's for the best, as with her gone, life can go on for the people of Fontaine. Neuvillette, however, chooses to save an innocent life.
By the order of the Chief Justice of Fontaine, Tartaglia is to be released from Meripede.
A collective gasp is heard throughout the crowd of people gathered at the Opera Epiclese, as Neuvillette officially makes the decision to free Tartaglia from the fortress of Meripede.
Oh? Well then go on, get him here within this hour. We'll release the girl should he get here on time. Go!
The head of the Fatui soldiers, still holding Charlotte in place, commands Neuvillette to go and get Tartaglia. The Chief Justice of Fontaine knows he cannot waste any more time, and so he quickly nods at the other soldiers. They bow to Neuvillette, before quickly running off to go bring Tartaglia from his confinement in Meripede.
The Fatui keep Charlotte held as they wait.
As the soldiers rush off to get Tartaglia, Navia looks at Charlotte, still in the Fatui's grip. She wants so badly to save her dear friend, but there is no way around this situation. Time seems to slow as everyone waits to see if they make it to return with Tartaglia before the hour is up. The seconds that pass by feels like an eternity, as everyone's mind wanders to what will happen should Tartaglia not be here on time. The Fatui's threat is clear. If he is not here before the hour is up, Charlotte's brains will be splattered all over the Opera Epiclese. Suddenly, the people waiting at the Opera Epiclese can see a group of soldiers returning to the location, bringing Tartaglia in tow. Navia's heart practically skips a beat as she sees the group, still holding on to hope that her friend will survive. As the group gets closer to the Fatui, Navia can see Tartaglia between them. His body is covered with bruises, and he appears to have been through hell in the fortress of Meripede. But no matter what, he is alive, and the Fatui's condition has been met to free Charlotte.
Lord Child. Good. Everyone, move aside. With Child, we're going back to Snezhnaya. Do not stop us or we'll go back on our word.
With that, the Fatui release Charlotte, punting her towards the crowd and join Tartaglia and flees away.
As Charlotte is punted towards the crowd, Navia leaps forward to catch her. It's only thanks to her quick reaction that Charlotte doesn't hit the ground hard, as she collapses in Navia's arms. Her body begins to shake as the adrenaline leaves her body, and she starts breaking down. Navia just holds her tightly, stroking her head gently. Charlotte's mind is a mess of emotions as she shakes in Navia's arms. She had just come so close to dying that the realization is only just beginning to hit her now. She buries her head in Navia's chest and she just sobs her heart out.
As for Neuvillette,
Neuvillette had been the one who gave the order to release Tartaglia from the fortress of Meripede and allowed the Fatui to escape. But such a decision still weighs heavily on his mind, and he can't help but feel a sense of guilt for releasing a criminal who's terrorized the people of multiple nations, not the least of which being Fontaine itself.
the decision leads questions to what could happen now. Will other criminals see this as a loophole? To hold people hostage to get others out the Meripede or else they'll be killed? What if he did not agree to the demand and choose to let Charlotte be killed? So other criminals won't use such loopholes. He still would have chosen an innocent girl to die, which likely would have eroded the nation's trust in him. How will people feel knowing a dangerous harbinger is loose? People will likely still lose trust in him, knowing he gave in to the Fatui's demands.
As questions and doubts fill his mind, Neuvillette can't help but feel trapped in a corner. No matter which decision he made, his future was bleak. If Tartaglia had not been released, the people would think he let an innocent girl die. But now that he had released the Harbinger, the people would feel that he let danger free to roam the land. Truly a difficult position for the Chief Justice of Fontaine to find himself in. As the night falls on Fontaine, people discuss amongst themselves on Neuvillette's decision to release Tartaglia to save an innocent girl's life. Some believe it was heroic for him to have saved an innocent soul, but some think he was a coward for giving in to the Fatui's demands. Regardless, the situation has left a heavy feeling hanging over the whole city as they wonder what the future will bring. Charlotte sits alone in her room, having spent the whole night trying to come to terms with what nearly happened to her. The image of the rifle aimed at her head, and the cold of the metal pressing against her forehead. She just can't seem to get it out of her head. She wants nothing more than to forget about the whole situation and continue her normal life as a journalist for the Steambird. Her mind struggles to process the events that had almost led to her death. She knows that if Neuvillette had chosen to keep Tartaglia locked up, she would have been killed right there and then in the Opera Epiclese. But to her knowledge, the Chief Justice of Fontaine made the choice to release the Fatui Harbinger and let the perpetrators get away with what had happened at the Opera Epiclese. The thought of Tartaglia being out and free, possibly causing destruction and havoc wherever he goes, sends a shiver down her spine. She's all too familiar with the Fatui's track record when it comes to that, and she can't help but wonder if releasing Tartaglia was the right decision after all.